Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. Let me make sure stocks get put up properly above us. We'll update for weather. It's already 60, dropped 11 degrees from once we got on. Welcome, guys. Week ahead news show with me, Liam, my friend Tommy.
Hello, everybody. It's good to be back for episode 27. We have I was going to say good show, but I don't know if any sort of news we talk about is actually considered good. We have a show today that should hopefully be entertaining and insightful.
Agreed. Make sure you drop a like if you're enjoying the content. We'll be having our sports show, Northeast Star Sports Show on Thursday at 8:30, same time as this one. This weekend we should be back with Healthy Living. I don't have a busy Sunday like I have been for a while. With me and Trevor, probably at 2 or 4. We'll look for a Facebook on that. We have a Facebook in our description. Please follow us on there. Like our content and share if you can. That'd be great. Once again, we have for today's stocks above us, whoever below us for this week. It is currently at September 8th, 2025. Like Tommy said, our 25th episode. I'll be going into weather real quick for a week. Today, our high was 70, low of 44. Tuesday, high is 74, low of 46, sunny. Wednesday, partly cloudy, 76-48. Thursday, sunny, 76-50. Friday, partly cloudy, 77-52. Saturday, partly cloudy again, 79-56. Getting a little hotter. Still have cold nights though. Not as cold as today and yesterday. Today and tomorrow. The low of 44 today was the low. Sunday, we'll be having light showers, 78-55. And next Monday, light showers, 71-52. I'm also going to check on the air quality is pretty good today with about 59. Next expected rain is September 16th, so it's going to be a while. UV index has been low. Our sunlight's getting less and less. We are currently at 12 hours and 46 minutes. With first light today at 6:28, sunrise at 6:56, sunset at 7:43, last to light at 8:11. Tommy, you can go and do our weekly stats for stocks from the last week to date numbers.
Yep. So from the last little recap of the last 5 days for the stocks, Dow up 94 points, 0.21. S&P 500 up 92 points, 1.4%. Nasdaq's up 746 points, 3.54%.
Thank you for that, Tommy. We'll be going into a funny topic, which we have been covering these past episodes for a while. South Park's been doing this thing where it's like every other week they've been putting out a show to kind of stop from getting. One second, there's sirens by me. Living by a fire station and police station in Jordan would do that to you. Last week's episode I thought was really funny. There was a lot to it. Once again, JD Vance was in it again. And I might need to watch it again because like those South Park episodes, there's so much in all of them. But a lot of it was about Labubu's, and Butters was trying to get this girl that liked him a Labubu, and that was funny. And there's how it was like they kind of played into the demonic theme, which some people think a lot of those toys kind of sense like Furbies and Teletubbies have always been like demonic. I mean, some of them are weird looking, and the Labubus are kind of like Furby mixed with crazy looking teeth animals. So that's funny they were able to do a whole episode. What else did they have in that episode? Do you remember, Tommy?
They they were talking a lot about tariffs, like
Oh yeah,
the
the
the the,
tariffs were
the,
for
the price of
Labubus.
the Labubus were what, like $80. I don't know what I didn't
80
know that
bucks.
Labubus were actually a real thing. Are they $80 in real life? Are they a lot of money?
I think they're
But
$80 for the mystery boxes, but Brandy was saying they're hard to get because one company makes them. So like certain Labubus are like
okay,
5 grand if you want the actual one. You know what I mean? If you want the special one or just a specific
yeah,
one instead of doing random. Because
they
man,
talked about that.
it was funny.
They it has been confirmed that Donald Trump is in fact fucking Satan. That has been confirmed.
Yep, there
They
was
did a
more of
Fox News.
that. It was
They did a
great.
Fox News, Fox breaking news. Kid Rock was very happy about it.
It was really
Those
fun.
that don't know what I'm those that don't know what I'm referencing, they had Donald Trump with Satan, and And then Fox News cut away. Fox News breaking alert. Donald Trump is with Satan. Oh my God. We're cutting to Chris Rock. And Chris Rock's like, I knew he was
Kid
fucking
Rock.
Satan. I
Kid
knew it.
Rock,
I
yeah.
knew it. Kid Rock. I knew it.
He was crying.
Um,
It was so funny. All
it
the
was it
Fox
was
News people were hype. They showed
they
Trump
had
at
to
a
fit.
conference and they're like look into his diverse reporters and there's all white guys from Fox News. So they were cracking on him
Yeah,
a
and
lot.
they
Man, it was funny.
it was a good episode. They had JD in there. Good old chubby JD.
Yep, JD like the little guy from Fantasy Island. So that's very funny. And this, how they make him sound, the face they use with his tongue out is just so funny to me. So keep watching that. You know, every 2 weeks they'll be coming out with episodes more than likely. We thought they were going to do an episode a week, but they kind of been doing every other week because of how much hate they get from each episode. So that's interesting, but something to laugh at while these times are happening.
It's I think it's fun to laugh at, but also I think it's actually brilliant political satire in a lot of different ways. You know,
Yeah.
and I love how the episodes are so pertinent to today's issues. Like, they're made within those 2 weeks, right? So they're
Hmm.
they're very relevant. They're very topical, which I think is why I enjoy the show so much.
Yeah, they've always been very good with that, staying up to date with the last presidency, even with Bush and stuff like Saddam Hussein, other, cultural stuff happening in the world
Yeah.
right now. They love throwing in their shows, so it's funny. And the Lububu stuff's funny, how to deal with tariffs and pushing it on kids. And me and Tommy were talking about where he's like, oh, you just get it through the claw machine. And Butters wins one through the claw machine, and then the guy's like, well, you still have to pay tariffs on it. And we were dying at that. Like, that's not how it works. And his wife's yelling at him like, you're exploiting these kids. He's like, it's not me, it's the tariffs. So it'll be interesting. A lot of numbers coming out today about we had a horrible jobs report, once again a low jobs report coming out. So from last month. So time and time again, we'll see. Um, Tommy, are you good to go into a national topic one?
Yeah, let's talk about some stupid publicity stunts that really doesn't mean much of anything other than I don't even know. But this is just so incredibly stupid, and it just sends all the wrong messages that we need to be sending as a nation. So, for those that don't know, um, the Trump regime changed the name of the Department of Defense back to the Department of War, which was its name that it held until 1949, until after the Second World War. Um, Very quickly, they moved and put up signs for Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War, and his deputy Secretary of War. So I'm sure Mr. Hegseth, I'm sure he pour, pull, pulled out or poured out a cold drink when he got that. He's been known to like his alcohol.
I
Um,
bet he did.
so Trump says the move is designed to project a more aggressive, quote, warrior ethos posture for the U.S. military, and I'll go back to that. So um, mixed reactions. Critics argue that the rebranding is costly, distracting, and symbolic. It is symbolic. There's Pete Hegseth, is still in charge of the Pentagon. Like it doesn't really matter what this is called other than the optics, which is terrible. But critics argue that it's costly, distracting, and symbolic rather than substantive. Um, and they point to costs. Like um, they point to the immense costs, that the millions of dollars that will have to be spent to um, replace signage and do all sorts of things to ultimately revert to a name that really serves no purpose other than to portray aggression. So um, this is just stupid. Like obviously from a public policy standpoint, from an international standpoint, it sends the wrong message. The United States doesn't need to be making war. The United States needs to be defending itself and defending the rules-based international order that has been
Hmm.
prevalent since the Cold War, but certainly the United States doesn't need to be taking any sorts of aggressive or warlike actions, unless, it involves the defense of the nation or some sort of critical breach of international law or some sort of critical U.S. interest. So the Department of War just sends the wrong message. More, and
Yep.
then the supposed reason offered by the Trump regime is that we need a more aggressive warrior ethos. Like, what does that even mean? Like, I was talking to Liam before the show started. I'm like that's some incel like shit. Like if a man walked up to me and said, hi Tommy, I have a warrior ethos, I'd be like, get the fuck away from me. Like what does that even mean? Like I,
Agreed.
I that's some incel type red flags going off in my mind. So that's the purported reason for making this costly, unnecessary change that sends the wrong message. Um, just absolutely crazy. So just another day of just another day at the clown show, which is the Trump regime.
Yep. And I remember seeing kind of like the same thing they were saying. It's they want it to be more about offense than defense, and I'm like, aren't these the guys who are talking about like less government spending, which means less spending on offense? I mean, we could do more on defense, but it's just there's so much to it. It's crazy. For the fact that they're wasting their own time and then workers' times as well to like be changing these signs and have to change everything on websites and crap like that, they have bigger fish to fry as a whole. So the whole government, as well as the Department of Defense, now the Department of War, or DOE. DOE sounds way better than Dodd. So I mean, it doesn't. So that's kind of funny. They just want to, and it kind of reminds me when talking about that incel thing. It like that guy that would say that to me, I would be like, oh, your favorite game must be like God of War, and you know all the lore, because like that is some like crazy stuff to me. And I'm not saying that's crazy, but that's your whole personality is war. Like grow up, bro. It's interesting to me. It's sad.
And
There's a lot. We need to restore certain things in the
you
government
know,
that not old school heritage like that. But go on.
you know, Trump was talking, breaking news, Trump is a liar, breaking news, but Trump was saying, that they changed the name of the Department of War to the Department of Defense back in the late 1940s because it was it was woke. like it was woke, like the
All
real
the way
reason
back
why,
then.
and it's yeah, but the real reason why it was changed from the Department of War to the Department of Defense back in the late 1940s was the United States wanted to portray that we were not interested in pursuing aggressive wars in the age of nuclear weapons. Like think of like that's what I mean? Like that just makes so
Hmm.
much more sense logically, but Trump can just lie and
Agreed.
say it was woke in 1949 and his supporters will just believe and eat it up.
Yep. Because they don't know
But it's
history. They
not
don't
true.
know history. They don't really care about actually fixing things. For a lot of them, like politics is just drama. It's like watching WWE or MMA. They don't really care about a lot of things, and that's what sucks. Like if you don't care, well,
And
why do you care about politics? But it's another drama for them. So this is another
and
thing that helps them
and
not think
Trump
about Epstein.
Yeah. Well, and Trump is also portraying himself as a peacemaker. He's not. This is the man that says he wants to turn the Gaza Strip, where Israel is currently perpetrating a genocide against the people of Palestine. He said he wanted to, make that the Riviera of the Middle East. He cut off critical support for Ukraine several months ago. But he's trying to portray himself as a peacemaker, going to end the war in Gaza, the genocide in Gaza. He's gonna end the
And
war
bring
in
Ukraine,
Ukraine.
yeah.
Um, but also at the same time, he's marching troops down Pennsylvania Avenue in this giant military parade, and he's also renaming the Department of Defense to the Department of War. So is our president is he a peacemaker or is he a war hawk? What is he here? I suspect he has no sort of sophisticated view on foreign policy. That's the answer.
Yeah, he doesn't know. He'll have his goons go in and they'll manipulate him in some aspects, but he doesn't know what's really going on in these, and he's not educated enough, intelligent enough to really attack him either, in my opinion. So it's crazy, and kind of about that joke. We don't have a topic for this. We're gonna wait for like probably every. Excuse me, 1 second. Probably wait for more information to come out and more hearings. But there has been more hearings for Epstein survivors and victims of Epstein with the House. Like there's a House committee talking to him. So they're talking a lot out to the media in front of these as well. So make sure you look up that. One thing that I think is crazy is last week though, the DOJ info dumped a bunch of data that only 3% of it was new. Only 3% of it was new. Like 7% of it wasn't new. So it's kind of crazy that, and it was all. It came out last time with Biden when Biden dumped those Epstein files. I think like 2 years ago. So like they're kind of like saying like, oh, here's new information. Make sure you look it up. Go through it and stuff. But none of it's new. So like a lot of, I saw his supporters were like, oh, there's new information coming out, guys, and then they realized there was only 3% new information, and they were like, oh well, they didn't say that, you know what I mean, to go back on it and try to, we really need to be going after Pam Bondi and Donald Trump for this, because they're just throwing crap out our faces and hoping it's sticking, and it's really not, especially with their own supporters as well. They want real answers, and with all these victims talking about it, talking about how they're making their own list, when really the government needs to be doing that. And another thing is a lot of times you'll see people on the right or people that say, you can't release a lot of this information. They talk about the victims, but like you let the victims speak for themselves, and a lot of them want this information out. Now, obviously, they don't want videos and photos being out, personal information of the actual victims. It's sad because, and Tommy knows this in court, a lot of times in court you could redact personal stuff, bloody stuff of the victims, but you don't do it to the people who are doing it to the victims unless they're special people, and that's what's happening right now, where they're saying, okay, we're going to redact Donald Trump being in there 200 times, most likely, more than likely, and then send it out. So it's kind of sad that they're protecting the people who were, I don't know if they say victors, or the people committing the crimes, committing these heinous crimes on these young women and men, rather than the actual victims themselves. But yeah, they should believe the victims and not really use them as a cope for something that they don't even believe, because that's kind of dirty in my opinion. But I wanted to talk about that before we got into another topic. But anything about the Epstein stuff going on real quick, Tommy?
No, no, real quick. I'm not an attorney, but it's just a big distraction. You know what I mean? That's how I view it. I think Trump is doing a lot of things to trying to distract from Epstein. I think that's definitely that's probably not the only reason why these actions are being taken, but it's certainly a large part of it. And you talk about that he has a real political problem here because only his own supporters are calling for the releases as well. If one thing that can bring Americans together, it's their firm belief that Jeffrey Epstein did not kill himself.
Yep.
Because Jeffrey Epstein did not kill him. I'm sorry, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I really don't believe hardly any conspiracy theories. Okay? But come on. You know what I mean? And then there's some implications there with Trump that he just would rather not go public.
Yep.
I think.
And they really be going after Trump and Pam Bondi because they released a video of the Epstein cell throughout the night he died, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. It may have just been me on here, but it may have been us both. And through info dumping and data mining, because any video, you could just look at for O's and ones, or you could look at the code for the video, and you could see when it's split. And they found through data mining that video was missing a minute. Pam Bondi lied to the American public and said, well, every jail with a 1999 camera system, you have to physically replace the tape. That's why the minute's missing. Well, it's weird that last week, that 3% new information, some of it was actually that missing minute. They had it. What's weird about it is it's more blurry than the other video, showing that it might be manipulated or literally edited to look worse, or manipulated to cut things out. But you can look this up too. In that minute video, you will see someone dressed in black get up from for common, I forget what they call it, but in jails where all the prison guards stand at, looking at their computers and stuff. He gets up from there and he goes towards a staircase towards Epstein, and then it cuts off because we don't have that camera. We only have a camera from the other side of his cell. It seems like his cell had 2 doors, so you could open it from either end. And he goes into the back end, and the camera's in the front end. And people are saying, oh, well, you're not supposed to, like, normal correctional officers don't wear black in federal prisons. I believe they wear gray, sometimes blue. So, like, it's kind of weird. It might be because it's poorly edited. Like, if it's fuzzy, it makes blue look black. But it's kind of scary he was doing it anyway, because a lot of the testimony from those prison guards say, like, anytime they go up to those cells that night, they were with their partner. So it should have been 2 of them. So, like, me and Tommy say we're not conspiracy theorists, but it might be, like, an infiltrator. It might be someone trying to actually, like, kill Epstein. Maybe someone from the jail who got a lot of money from someone. There's a lot of things in this that's scary. So it's sad that, like, Pam Bondi just lied about that, comes out about it, and doesn't go back on her lie, says, oh, something's different. But time and time again, she's covering up for Trump because she knows that she doesn't want Trump to get in trouble. And it's sad because, like, we don't care about Bill. They subpoenaed Bill. Subpoena Trump. That's what you should do. Have them both testify in front of Congress, but they don't want to do that.
You say Pam Bondi's lying. We're going to talk about this a little later, but, like, RFK was in front of the Senate hearing, in front of the Senate defending his quote unquote vaccine policy. Like, one of the senators, said to RFK, like, you're a charlatan. Like, that's what they said to him. And the same applies to most. I don't like saying the word all people, but I'm going to say all people in the Trump administration. They're probably charlatans. You know what I mean? Like, I'll make a broad generalization.
To get there, you have to be, I feel like, because,
Yeah.
I mean, Trump was one as well. He sold stakes. He sold a college that wasn't accredited, and bankruptcy after bankruptcy. So a lot of these people, Patel, he has people that were YouTubers. Loie Loomer, Patel, these are YouTuber guys. He made the head of a freaking FBI, and Patel's like, oh, I'm so messed up in the head now from all the stuff I learned. Well, yeah, if I was a YouTuber for, like, my full-time job, just like a drama YouTuber, and, like, on the right, and I became a head of the FBI, yeah, you would learn some stuff. You would have learned that before if you learned some history.
If we want to just put it very briefly, then we could move on if you want. But
yep.
The administration is it's full of liars and thieves. Like, that's your top line. That's your top line. They're liars and thieves, and it's true. They're true. Yep. It's true. They, any member of the Trump administration, they'll shake your hand and then they'll reach in your back pocket, take your wallet, and stab you in the back. That's the Trump administration for you. Welcome to the United States.
And, like, his supporters can't say nothing because we have the facts. We have him taking money from Saudi people. There's a bunch of people in the Middle East, people all around. Maybe some Russia. So, like, it's so many deals that we learned from his first presidency. Everyone's staying in his hotels. So anyone that if I'm a diplomatic person, even from Europe, I have to stay at a Trump hotel because Trump knows, oh, well, I pocket that money. Instead of staying in a normal hotel, presidential hotels, nah, stay at my hotel. So it's just crazy. But we'll go into our first topic, local topic. That was our first national topic. Our first local topic is about Ursuline hazing scandal. WFMJ, it's kind of a national news on some websites now too, but I'll be going over it. Just like a quick overview via hazing and assault allegations. Federal civil rights lawsuit was filed, Ursuline High School, along with administration, Principal Matthew Samarin. Oh man, 1 second. An Italian name's coming up. Matthew Sammartino. That's actually pretty easy. Assistant Principal Margaret Damore and Head Coach Dan Reardon. Assistant Coaches Tim McGlynn and Kristen. Holy crap. Siren Odious. Several players and their parents have been named as defendants in a federal lawsuit alleging hazing, physical assault, sexual assault, and creation and dissemination of child pornography, which is sad and crazy. Some of these coaches had issues in the past. If he was a head coach, had issues in the past at Champion. I don't know where Tommy's from. Yuck, yuck, yuck. But that's kind of how it happens sometimes. They just keep going from school to school and just let bad stuff happen. If the incident details were from a June football trip, there was like rumors and people were talking about it on social media when it happened. So I'm very happy that finally, it's getting dealt with in, if I'm not mistaken, Tommy, via civil courts, via alleged misconduct, right? Or is this criminal courts? This is civil, right?
This is brought by the parents, so it'd be civil.
Okay. The alleged misconduct occurred during a 9-day multi-state football team trip in June 2025. The assault described in the lawsuit on the first night, the victim was grabbed by the throat, pulled out of a closet, thrown onto a bed, and sexually assaulted. So it sounds like he was hiding from people trying to haze him and fuck with him, like mentally and physically, and in a real sense and in a noun verb sense. A similar assault followed on the fourth night, so it wasn't a singular occurrence. And obviously, if it happens on the first night and parents, and not parents, but coaches get told about it, changes should happen. Major problems to me is that it was recorded and shared, and we do see this a lot. We've seen this since with a YSU football player that did certain thing. I believe he got a girl drunk and raped her and recorded it, and was still able to play with YSU. It's for new age of kids, since they always have phones. Like, I don't know why, but it's kind of sick where like they want to record sick things now with those phones that they do, and it's not right at all. And you like
it's super fucked up.
Yeah, it's super fucked up because like once you share it, these kids should know. Well, dude, that's an illegal fucking crime. Like that's like FBI showing up at your door now. And before, rape and stuff like that, you're gonna have the cops showing up at your door, but not the FBI for disseminating and distributing child porn. Some players recorded the assault and posted to a team Snapchat group chat, which was subsequently shared with other students and like even the broader community, which is disgusting. The fact that it was shared with people outside of the school and stuff wasn't done immediately was crazy. And the school talked about it in a statement. Stuff was done in the back end. This is the problem with private schools, though, is that there's not transparency about it. There's not clear, especially with Catholic private schools, clear transparency about this. They didn't come out with a statement then saying, oh, this happened and we're dealing with it. Here's blah, 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 how we fix it. It's just hide. There was a dismissive response by coaches. Reports of these incidents were allegedly trivialized by coaches as if boys being boys, and similar dismissal echoed by assistant coaches. That scares me because being a Catholic school, based in the past, you shouldn't be saying that, because now it makes me think about, well, what's like the broader mindset of what a boy is. Is a boy someone that rapes another boy? Not in my eyes. Is it in the Catholic school eyes, these dynasties' eyes? I don't know, and that's scary. Is it a coach thing where, you see it every school? Coaches deal with scandals probably every year and hide them. Let's just be honest. So is it a thing that they get used to? It's just disgusting. You know what I mean? Should you be these types of, people like, kind of like with an Epstein lawyer or someone defending Epstein? Should you be someone defending these kids and not fixing it, and not just taking accountability yourself as a coach? If you have talks with these players and you tell them that, hey, this is serious, you don't do this shit. Not only will you, be kicked out of a football team, there's legal consequences with this as well. It's a whole mindset. It's how the culture is for the team, for stuff like that. You know what I mean? You want a team that's open and happy with each other and not really doing bad things and hiding from each other. There was inaction by the administration. According to the suit, school leaders failed to properly investigate or take disciplinary action, despite being presented with sufficient evidence. Coaches are still not fired, even after the lawsuit last week. If I'm not mistaken, nothing has come out.
Some coaches are suspended now, and one of them got fired, I believe. I think it just came out like 20 minutes ago.
Oh, good. All right, I'm going to have to look that up real quick while we're going through this, and maybe while you give your critiques. The attorney's criticism is attorney Subha Chandra condemned the inaction of the school staff, who he contends didn't even go in and check on the boys when this activity was going on, sending multiple supporting text messages, which is crazy. Um, if I was a coach, mentor on a team, and that was happening, I'd be busting in there, ripping kids apart, and saying, it's hard. There's a lot of emotions there. You can't really beat up a kid, but you could rip them off a kid and just yell at him a lot and say like, "All right, you're leaving now," you know. Just that's just crazy to me, so crazy. Especially like if you're on a school trip, a lot of these like it's like they go to a university, and they practice for a week, you know, with the university coaches on the university field. It's kind of a waste of money, but you know how football is. It's all a waste of money. But like the players probably like heard this from the start. If there was commotion where a player's hiding and then he's getting like his throat grabbed, getting taken out of a closet, you kind of hear that shit happening. I'd be running in there with a belt if it was my kids, and it's not, you know, it's not your kids, but I'd be running there as a coach, ready to get these people safe. For related developments and reactions, additional victims and witnesses emerged since we're coming out with a lawsuit. Attorney Sandra reported that there were 2 to 3 more individuals, potential victims or witnesses, have come forward, which is great because they need witnesses as well. You know what I mean? A lot of times, if you could just get it where it's kind of like a sexual assault case, where it's he said, she said, but it's for a victim and 3 other boys, there's no other witnesses, it's hard to prove it. But there's text, there's a video, and it's, you know, like I'm saying, which let me tell you what I'm saying. When you record it, you're already fucking stupid, but when you're recording a crime that disgusting, you know, that's your evidence. But witnesses definitely help with cases like this. The school and diocese statements for Diocese of Youngstown stated they conducted a timely investigation, cooperated with authorities, and took steps to protect students. Well, I don't know what timely means because I don't know if that means quick. Because sometimes it shouldn't be a quick investigation. You need to look into like why did this happen, and obviously like their first investigation wasn't right if they didn't fire coaches, and now they get more heat. They're firing and suspending coaches. We see this a lot. You see it on my sports show. This happens a lot in sports teams. Happens everywhere in businesses. You know what I mean? Just discussing stuff like that. People trying to say, "Oh, well, we did a timely investigation of the sexual assault," and they really didn't. Like me and Tommy, which I've told Tommy before, in certain contract cases, Christian Horner with Red Bull, you can look up in F1, he had a contract that if any investigation were to be on him, it would have to be done by his lawyers. So he got a sexual assault case thrown at him. Red Bull did the investigation with his lawyers and cleared him. But he ended up still getting fired from it because of PR, eventually. So it kind of shows that, like, some of this stuff can be very rigged. You know what I mean? If the investigation was done by, you know, the Catholic people that don't want to change things much. The criminal and institutional implications. Hazen expert Dave BNC highlighted that criminal charges are possible if allegations hold, and sanctions, such as suspensions, expulsions, or athletic program penalties, could follow, which would be great to see. He also noted that hazing-related allegations could lead a long-lasting reputational impact, but basically a long-lasting impact on a child, especially because they're a kid and they're developing. Any type of trauma like that would be long-lasting. Some PTSD.
Or just having that video out there, you know, like
True.
they're a kid, they were sexually assaulted. Just having that video out there, you know, can obviously, you know, the person didn't do anything wrong. They're a victim, you know, but I could see how that could, you know, could affect them.
Agreed. And also, like we saw with Penn State, I don't know if Ohio State's wrestling program ever got suspensions, but we have seen in college athletics, schools get handed down hard penalties. Michigan with in gymnastics for sexual assault, and that's kind of how it should be. You know what I mean? If your team allows this, just like with cheating, just like with gambling, anything else, like the fact that like, oh, if your team cheats, you get more of a penalty than if your team had Joe Paul in the showers. Like, it's kind of sad. Sorry, Jerry Sandusky in the showers. Joe Paul was a coach, but once again, Joe Paul got fired because he knew about it and didn't do anything. So kind of like with this, we might have to see. Like, people are saying they should cancel the whole year for football. They should. Like if my kid was on that team, he wouldn't be anymore. He wouldn't have been once that actually news came out or he told me about it.
Yeah.
Like, there's certain things that unless you take that you take that step as a community as a whole, the change won't happen. The Catholic Church, once again, time and time again, we've seen this with altar boys coming out. Time and time again, they will cover it up and just keep doing it. You know what I mean? You need heavy changes. You need heavy background checks. You need heavy training in how not to do this. A good example is for Boy Scouts. Boy Scouts used to be, hey, you just wanted to be a troop leader, you're a troop leader. Now it's like, oh, you have to go through a ton of training and background checks because they've had, bad people as troop leaders. So I feel like they should change that as a whole. The football game last Friday was canceled against Farrell High School in PA, citing the lawsuit as a factor, and probably, once again, all the bad PR, broader context from the Adia stream. A report detailed the lawsuits or wider claims, including that the abuse was part of a long-standing culture of hazing. The school allegedly deleted social media posts and told players not to speak about the incidents, which isn't what you do. You know what I'm saying? Like, they want to control the narrative and close it off. They don't want it to be open and be something that these people can get help for. You know what I mean? If you tell someone that was already abused that, oh, you can't talk about it, that's kind of messed up. They should be able to live their lives pretty normally and talk about that when they can through therapy and just normally through friends and just in life. Some background, like I said before, on the implicated coaches. For complaint alleged that head coach Reardon has resigned previously under a cloud of negativity, and that, like I said, Champion and assistant coach McGuinn had left his prior position amid alleged physical abuse. These histories were reported known to the school at the time of hiring, and they still hired him. So once again, how do you trust them to hire another coach? They have to be open and honest about it. Here's their background. They shouldn't have any backgrounds of getting fired for bad stuff. That should be first. But like I said, they still get suspended. So it's kind of hard. You kind of have to come out with a plan first. I feel like the first part of the plan is helping the students, because they matter the most. The students that were traumatized and were affected by this, of a student. But I feel like if it is a culture, there's probably more. So kind of like what you have to do with some other assaults, hazing. You have to talk to these kids a lot, therapeutic ways, try to be like, hey, you can talk about this. Did anything happen? Learn about it, investigate it. So for legal standing, it was a 200-page federal lawsuit filed. Because was it Title IX? If I'm not mistaken, a Title IX suit with more victims emerging. And
I'm not sure. I haven't actually looked at the actual lawsuit. I just looked at the articles.
I looked at the lawsuit, and I'm pretty sure it said Title IX, and I'm pretty sure that's 9.
Title
for
9,
reasoning based on it. Yeah, possible criminal and civil consequences. I've seen a lot of people talking.
I can almost guarantee you there's a. I can almost guarantee you there's a bunch of different theories they're suing under.
Oh, I bet.
I haven't read it, but I'm almost positive.
And here's the problem too, is that these kids, they have parents. Their parents are probably involved in the schools. They might be alumni. It's hard to attack this. I've heard people talk about where, well, we need the alumni to do it and to hold these people accountable. But what if, you need to think, these alumni probably have their kids there. Some of these alumni, their kids may have been the ones doing the hazing. So first, we need to figure that out and say, well, we need them out of these alumni boards, school boards, and also say, hey, will you be held accountable? Will you make change? Because it's kind of, you can't trust it. You know what I mean? To be like, oh, make a change if they're a part of the issue. So coaches, administration needs to get looked at. These school boards. And like I'm saying, if the alumni are for good alumni, not these parents of these kids, because I don't trust that. Now the victim, yes, but like I'm saying, the parents of the hazed kids, or maybe cousins of coaches and stuff. We need to be smart about that. Yeah.
If there was a list of people or a list of organizations of people I don't trust, the Catholic Diocese of Youngstown would be on that. If there was a list of local organizations that I don't trust, the diocese is on that list.
No, I get that one, Tommy. I get that one. I agree. With all the past, with what they did with, like I said, the altar boys, with male sexual harassment, is just insane. They'll just move priests from town to town back in the day, out of state, different areas. The amount of cover-ups was insane. So,
yeah.
This needs to get
Um,
attacked from multiple angles, and it's sad. It's a private school because like there's no is there a way if a state could step in and say like, hey, you need to be doing this, or like we're gonna cancel your football? Like I don't know. There's a lot of things, and this is once
well,
again why like private schools I don't like. There's less transparency. There's more openness for this to literally happen. So, and we see it time and time again. What you say, Tom?
um, you know, I'm gonna say, people that know me or will realize I don't say this very often. People that know me, though, I don't say this. Um, I think the police need to roll up and arrest some people. uh, I think uh, the 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 kids that did this, I think they need to be involved in the juvenile justice system. I don't think any sort of I don't think this is something that the school can just discipline away internally. I think this is such a serious matter that you have to break out the handcuffs.
Yeah, because like
What
I mean it's a good point because like if you just attack the school, there's not a deterrent on the kids. Like even though like obviously normal kids in football wouldn't do that, but messed up ones still might unless they see oh I'm gonna be put in juvie, I'm gonna be in jail for 10, 20 years, and maybe that's too long, but
Yeah.
you know.
Let me be clear. If the school did anything criminal as well, I want them to be charged criminally as well.
Agreed.
Like
Yeah.
um,
They
you know,
both
you
need to
know,
be put on it. Like we need to actually like hammer it down, use it as an example. And I don't really like saying that. Like a lot of times conservatives like saying that for heavy sentencing, or certain messed up
yeah,
cases. But like this is an example case that we keep seeing this from the Catholic Church. Like what the heck?
and if you think of the long lasting implications that the boy, the victim in this case, is going to suffer. It may seem to some it's just a football game. It's just boys being boys. I hate that phrase. But
Agreed.
no,
Yeah.
like this victim in this case is going to be suffering, I imagine, years long trauma, years long mental health conditions that they're going to have to work through, which is not fun and is incredibly difficult on anybody. Um, so
And what's crazy, Tommy,
overall,
is
I guess,
like now that they're admitting that even when it's a male sexually harassing a male, it's boys being boys. So young boys just rape. They just sexually harass. That's what boys being boys means. You know what I mean? It's crazy. For a long time, that's what they would always say for women. And when young boys would do messed up shit, and sometimes other messed up shit, like you can't say that. Like we live in a pretty advanced society. We live in a society where a lot of other countries have very advanced children. We have advanced children too, but not like other countries. I'm just gonna say that. So it's not that hard to say you don't do these things. You just talk. That's all you have to do is talk
yeah,
about it, and a lot of people just don't want to talk about it. And it's like, and
and
that's some of a problem too. Like we see on the right, talking sexuality to kids is bad. You know what I mean? That's being a pedo because they have to cope for protecting their own pedophiles. But it's proof that they don't want to protect kids because if you talk sexuality of kids, they learn that oh well you don't sexually harass someone, you don't rape someone, you know what I mean? And when they get if they're a victim of sexual harassment and rape, they could be open about it and talk about it. They don't have to hide about it. They're not confused because the person that's doing it's lying and manipulating them. Like it's easy. It's so ignorant because it's like if you want to protect people, you tell them about what's coming for you. You know what I mean? If you're afraid that your kid's going to get abducted by the ice cream man, you tell them to be afraid of the ice cream man. You don't say, hey, buddy, here's $2, go to the ice cream man. So it's whack.
um, I just hope that appropriate charges are brought. And when people say boys just being boys, it really diminishes the criminal act that just occurred. Like
Mm-hmm.
like no, like if this is true, this is a conscious choice that somebody made to commit these alleged crimes. That's not just boys being boys. Like
Yep.
it's a crime. And the fact that people would just dismiss something like this so easily is I just think it's disgusting.
It is,
You
and like you
know,
could look it
and
up with other
and
cases. And it's interesting that you said that with consciousness. They've talked about it. Well, like a boy threw a tire over a bridge and it killed someone, and I think he was like 16. This is pretty recently, I think. And they said,
that happens, yeah.
he made that conscious choice knowing it could hit someone and kill him. So yeah, he did the
Yeah.
crime. You know what I mean? Like that's how they attacked
Right.
that, and that's how it should be because it
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. Like if we're
And
conscious to
and
it, a lot of things, but
and that is a better situation because someone in theory could throw a tire off an overpass and it not hit anything.
yep,
Okay? With this, they were literally allegedly engaging in rape.
yeah,
Like there's no question that a harm follows that criminal act. It's not speculative in the same way as potentially throwing a tire off a bridge. Like
yeah,
it's I'm just so tired of this, and there needs to be accountability because this is not just something that can be wiped off paper by just boys being boys. No, that's not what boys do.
and like with Epstein and what we talked
Boys,
about, like you don't put it under the rug. You got to keep talking about it. But sorry, Tom, I'll let
right?
you finish that off.
Boys don't rape people.
Agreed,
Like
yeah.
that's not normal behavior. That is criminal behavior.
And like me and Tom, we talked a lot about it in the past. Like as a broader thing, it's something that we need to fix. As a whole, it's just like how we respect each other, how young boys respect other young boys, and how we respect women as a whole more. There's a lot that goes into this that kind of builds in this toxic, like sex pool of American society, where like dude, a lot young boys feel like they could just record this now. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
disgusting. So it shows a lot.
I would love it if masculinity was associated with kindness, giving,
Yep.
being a good friend. But it's not, and there's a certain segment of young men who are in this dark corner of the internet where they're learning the warrior ethos, to quote Donald Trump,
Yep.
And it's incredibly harmful. It's incredibly harmful.
Because if we're gonna get like intellectually for it for a second, a lot of times, even though we still have wars, that warrior ethos stopped once we became communities. Once we started building bridges to each other, water and infrastructure, we are more of a civilized society now. Even in war, we're not fighting broadswords like the Spartans. We're not getting taken out by 300 and getting blocked out by the sun from arrows. It is advanced warfare. We're getting to a point where it's like Call of Duty, advanced warfare, drones. I could be sitting on my butt flying a drone anywhere in the world. So, like Tommy's saying, it's weird to me that, a lot of Make America Great guys, back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, men were fucked up, but they were still more communal. Even a lot of men were still somewhat, had more empathy. It's weird that like we had hippies back in the 60s. We kind of need more men like that. Like Tommy's saying, like being masculine could be a lot more than just being strong and thinking I provide by working. You could provide by
Yeah.
working, cleaning, cooking, gardening, providing. It's one of my favorite things is that in America, in life, being wealthy and like having money doesn't mean that you're always prosperous. You have to work hard to be prosperous. So if you want to be prosperous, you got to work all around in your life. Money definitely helps out a lot more in a capitalistic country. It definitely does, and that's the number one driver. It's probably 40% of that whole bubble. You know what I mean? Or 60%, depending on what you're looking at other stuff. But like you still need to be prosperous in your life. You know what I mean? A poor man that's prosperous still has a better life than a rich man who's sad and grinding himself out or dies early because working his ass off. So get a little off topic, but we'll go into our national topic too. Tommy will be going over. If you're enjoying the content, make sure you drop a like. Anything else before we keep going, Tommy?
Okay, so national topic 2, another charlatan. Let's go.
Let's go.
RFK Senate hearing. Um, So those that don't know, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. complete total nutcase. He has a worm in his brain. He's crazy. Um, he he is the head of Health and Human Services, and which controls the CDC, and he's just going on and on about his normal anti-vaccine bullshit that's not true. And he's making all sorts of changes at the Center for Disease Control, changing the ways that vaccines are recommended, approved, etc. And he's doing this in a way that is very harmful to American health. So a couple days ago, it was time for Mr. Kennedy, Charlatan Kennedy, to face the music and appear before the United States Senate. And it did not go well for Mr. Kennedy. He was being lambasted by senators, senators from both parties, like Bill Cassidy, who's a Republican, Elizabeth Warren, voiced alarms. Several senators called him a charlatan. And it was not a good time. At some points, Mr. Kennedy was, on his phone and scrolling through like TikTok, as the
Doom scrolling.
The
brainworm needed fame.
doom scrolling, during the Senate hearing, and bad day for Kennedy, and just really just it's truly is terrible with what he's doing at the Department of Health and Human Services.
Agreed.
And he deserved that the
grilling,
the public lambasting by the Senate.
Yeah, being called a charlatan, going after his past views, his hypocritical views, the fact that he's not really properly educated to be doing this. My favorite quote is, I was telling Tommy, him going, "America has never been sicker. That's why we're firing people from the CDC." And it's like, I don't know what crack he was smoking, but it messed some stuff up, because that is crazy to me.
He said today that there has been no accomplishments from the Center of Disease Control within the last 40 years. It's just not true. That's just not true. Vaccines are safe and effective. Don't listen to Kennedy. The CDC, was an effective organization under the previous administration. And it's crazy that, we have such a charlatan in charge of public health.
Yep. They went after his multiple misleading statements. And I've seen this before, I'm more saying he's not properly educated. You need people that understand math and science to be in math and science positions. Just like you need people that understand labor positions to be in labor positions. I'm not saying certain ways, certain countries did it better, but if you looked at communist Russia, for head of labor was normally a rich labor kid. That wasn't always popularly right, but it should be someone that knows labor. You know what I mean? The head of transportation should be someone that's worked in transportation their whole life. Shouldn't be someone that gets picked for politics. But that's what happens time and time again. Like I was going to say, they came out and the CDC said, under Biden, they tried to hide a test that said vaccines caused an increase in kids of 1,433%. Now, when I'm saying you need to understand science and math, if you know statistics and you have 100 kids and you had a vaccine trial and 100 of them got autism, what would that percent be, Tommy? And I know even though you ain't no math boy, but what would that be?
What was the numbers again? One more time. Sorry.
100 out of 100.
100%. There we go.
Yep. In statistics,
there we go.
In statistics, if you're over 100%, you're doing something wrong. Now, just like in certain geometry, you do have error. So let's say I calculate a ton of percentages and I get to 100.48. Well, with theoretical math, you could get that error out of there. So there's equations for error. So like I'm saying in geometry, a lot of times in surveying, surveyors want to complete a closed circle. But sometimes they get to 360.001 degrees. Well, you can calculate that error to fix it throughout the whole survey. There's a distance throughout every point that you learn from that calculation. It's the same way with a lot of advanced statistics and a lot of health statistics. So when you say, why did they hide that? And the thing is, and then we talk about a lot, the American people as a whole are ignorant. So they don't understand in statistics, nothing over 100% makes sense. And it also means that even out of that study, 100 out of 100 didn't get autism. There was some wrong calculation there. What makes a good engineer, and we've been told this in college and even while we're older in the fields, is that even if you're calculating something, you should know what the answer should be around. If I say, oh, I have a 2-inch pipe, I should know, oh, the flow should be around 6 to 8 CFS. That's random numbers. You know what I mean? If I have an 8-inch pipe, bigger, it should be 2 to 4. You know what I mean? It all depends. But, like, you know what I mean? You should know the general answer. So when you're doing a statistical study, anything from 0 to 100, there was something there that was dramatically changed. That, like, it should be thrown out. Because you don't want to scare the public like that. Because they don't understand that, percentages don't go over 100. And, like, you could say it. We could say it in TV, and we could, me and Tommy right now, like I said, I'm giving it 110%. But if we're talking about statistics and you got 110%, you're failing that test. So we need educated people in this stuff. Time and time again, we're seeing it with the Trump administration. I'm tired of RFK Jr. He too crazy for me.
That brainworm be talking.
It does. And like me and Tommy talking about, CDC has helped out a lot in our country and in foreign countries with our foreign aid and like developing these vaccines. It's sad, how you make America healthier is that you don't let sick people die. You know what I mean? If that's what we want to do and make America healthier by just letting the sick people die, we are just like a lot of these authoritarian countries that we hate. And that's not the American dream. You know what I mean? Your pursuit of happiness. Doesn't say pursuit of happiness until you retire. Pursuit of happiness until you need to be put into a nursing home. So we do need to keep people healthy, and some of that is for CDC, preventive vaccines as a whole, like we see with polio, time and time again. So that's probably it for me, Tom. You got any more on this topic?
No, that was a brief one for me. The Senate hearing was a disaster, but Kennedy definitely deserved what was coming towards him.
Agreed.
He truly is a charlatan who has no idea. Yeah, it's entertaining. He truly has no idea what he's doing, and it shouldn't be near the public health of Americans.
So this next topic is very interesting to me. Make sure you drop a like, follow us on Facebook, share on social media. It really helps us out there. It helps with our algorithm on YouTube and Facebook to help us get to more people in this Northeast Ohio area. That'd be great. But this next topic is about for county commissioners. Big, beautiful bill, proposed property tax reductions could be costly to the county. It's interesting because I go to Lordstown and Girard City Council meetings. I was talking with a colleague, I would say, in Girard, who does a lot of work for Girard, and he was saying that he's still waiting on money from the county from certain grants. So the county basically gave out certain specific grants to cities and townships in the county. But now they're not giving them the money. And it's been months. So kind of like what we see with these federal grants being on pause too, because of this pause in spending, like we talked about time and time again, it's going to trickle down into the county. The county had cuts as a whole for people, so they're going to have to be cutting the spending as a whole. The federal One Big Beautiful bill impacts a county aid. Trumbull County Commissioner Dan Malloy warns that new federal... Malloy, thank you. Warns that for new federal law, nicknamed One Big Beautiful bill. I don't know if you've seen this, Tommy. They're thinking about rebranding it. And it just shows if you have to if you have to rebrand it this way in, it's not that good. And they laughed at Build Back Better.
Yeah.
But all political bills are going to be simple names, but if your bill doesn't have a PR behind it, you have to rebrand it. It shows a lot. Reduces the federal government's cost share on nutrition assistance programs. The federal contribution drops from 50 to 25%, meaning that the county must now absorb 75% administrative costs, resulting in an estimated $500,000 annual cost increase for Trumbull County. So either we less benefits for people as a whole, we're going to take that, or take more tax increases. SNAPs and Medicaid changes, escalate workload, changes include more frequent Eligibility reevaluations of Medicare recipients for insurance will now be reevaluated every 6 months instead of annually, so every year. Additionally, a work requirement for Medicaid eligibility is being introduced for restraining of a county's caseworkers' capacity. And it's interesting because once again we see that the party of small government is affecting our local governments. So it's not for party of small government. Party of small government, but they'll want to, go into D.C., Chicago. They want to do all this authoritarian crap. This is sad, you know what I mean? They didn't think about how they're pushing all of this on local counties. If we were in Denver, we would be fine. If we were in New York, we'd be fine. If we were in places in Florida, we'd be fine. But we're in Ohio, we don't have that much money, we're not fine. It also threats to fund from proposed for funding as well for proposed property tax cuts. How do you say his name again? Malloy?
Denny Malloy.
Malloy. I always want to see there's an R in there. Malloy and his peers and the county Commissioners Association of Ohio, the CCAO, expressed concerns over efforts to eliminate the inside mileage portion of property taxes. This move would jeopardize funds for vital services, including police, fire, EMS, children's services, school, and MRDD programs. So, programs for mentally disabled. And that's just sad. One thing about America, and people right and left do agree with police and fire and protecting a lot of this stuff. But we're seeing the right wants to cut it off right now, which is really sad. The budget shortfall and alternative revenue. If the inside mileage is eliminated, oh my God, Mallow. I was going to put an O or, but he ended up estimating that $22 million annual loss to the general fund. To offset this, the county would need to implement an 18 to 20 increase in sales tax, a steep alternative given the revenue gap. So it's interesting too, because with tariffs, if all these local counties have to increase taxes on sales, we're really not going to be buying stuff around here anymore. If a state through ODNR and other taxes need to increase their taxes on gas, we're going to see people driving less. This really is like leading to a recession. Everything's turning to it. They're leveraging tourism and bed taxes. Currently, revenue includes a 5% bed tax, split between tourism 2% and the Port Authority 3%. The commissioners point to the Hocking County 6% bed tax, which includes levies on short-term rentals like Airbnbs, as a model. However, not many people travel to Trumbull County like they do Hocking County because of Hocking Hills. If we had Hocking Hills, and all them Airbnb and cabins, we would be making money. That's kind of like looking at Columbus and being like, a city that has a ton of this stuff. We don't have a ton of Airbnbs. Trumbull County is considering a similar approach and is currently assessing the number of Airbnb properties in the area. But I'm going to be done here, guys. Me and Tommy are done for the night. You want to say anything before you go, Tommy? You're not feeling too well.
No, this is just crazy what's going on. The Republicans in our county commission, they are learning that the Republicans in Washington do not have their best interest at heart because they do not have anybody's best interest at heart, So crazy what's going on. But thanks again for having me on the show today.
Yep.
I look forward to doing it again next week.
Yep. We'll be here Thursday, guys, with the Northeast Ohio Sports Show. That's it for me. Hope you enjoyed the content. Drop a like if you had, even if you're watching video on demand. I really appreciate that. Facebook in the description. Have a good night, Youngstown.
Thank you, everybody.